Hey, it is Mitchell. Today I wanted to dive into a sensitive subject, and that is about why is it that Vietnamese women oftentimes either prefer or choose to date Western men. Before we jump into this, if you like this video and you like what I do on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, I like to make videos about traveling or living abroad, tech, the tech I use to make videos, and techniques, or some of the techniques and skills I have acquired to make videos. Also, if you want to go ahead and further this conversation, I would suggest going ahead and checking out my Facebook group, Travel Tubers. If you're big on the whole blockchain thing, go ahead and check out my profile on STEEMIT. Enough shameless self-promotion, and let's get to the meat of this issue. Now, before I jump into this, I want to say that this is not the thoughts of all Vietnamese women. I've just been living here for about a year. I've met quite a few of them. More often than not, this is a question that I ask them, usually when they bring up the subject of dating here, because I want to know what their opinion is and why they would choose to date a Vietnamese guy or date a Western guy. Dating preferences are interesting, so let's just dive into it. Now, the first reason that I just want to get out of the way that no one has ever brought up to me is penis size. I know more often than not, Vietnamese men will joke with me that Vietnamese girls like Western guys because of a bigger dick, but in reality, with all of the Vietnamese women I've talked to, it's never been something that they've brought up to me. It's never been something that they've even mentioned to me in their top 5 or even top 10 reasons why they like to date Western guys. Now, the first and most common reason that Vietnamese girls give me that as to why they like to date Western guys is because of how Western men view women as being equal to them. And that's not to say that Vietnamese men do not treat Vietnamese women as equals, but in Western culture, we have this idea that gender roles should not be strictly enforced, and that if a woman wants to work outside the house and earn money while the man stays at home with the family, that's perfectly socially acceptable. And it is this open-mindedness, and it is this lack of strict gender norms that Vietnamese women are often searching for. They are many times in school or have a job, they are making their own money, and they don't want to be necessarily looked at as someone who should be cleaning up for the man or taking care of the man in the way that we often see in traditional Vietnamese households. The second one is that they want a non-committal relationship. And this is something that's really struck me as interesting, but makes a lot more sense. In Vietnamese culture, there's a huge emphasis placed on spending a lot of time with your friends and your family, and necessarily spending a lot of time with someone who you just want to have a sexual relationship with is not the highest of priorities. More often than not, when I ask them about their experience dating Western guys, they just look at Western men as a way to have fun. They don't have to introduce them to their friends or to their family. And if a Western man just wants to have a casual relationship with a Vietnamese girl for 4 to 6 months, let's say, they're usually more than happy to do that. Now, while that doesn't mean that Vietnamese women will not become in committed relationships with men, it just struck me as something that I found very interesting when asking about why they would prefer to date a Western guy. The third reason why Vietnamese girls have often told me that they prefer to date Western men is actually independence. Now, that's not to say that Vietnamese men are dependent, but let me explain. In Vietnamese culture, it is absolutely socially acceptable for a man to live with his family until he is of the age to marry. Now, while this might seem phenomenal and like something that would save a lot of money, it often bars the man from having an overnight guest or being able to have complete freedom from his parents to have guests or to entertain. Contrast that with what most Western men experience in Vietnam, which is a complete departure from their friends and family and into a living situation that is completely independent. I can understand why so many Vietnamese girls would prefer to date a Western man. Not necessarily because a Vietnamese man would be dependent on his parents, but just because he lives with them means that there will be a certain amount of parental parental oversight or parental interaction that the girl might not want to have. Fourth reason that Vietnamese women have informed me that they prefer dating Western men is something that I could categorize at best as Western values. In Western countries, we see a heavy emphasis placed on career advancement, individual achievement, and being able to go out into the world on your own and make ends meet. This is not only evident in men, but in women, and it is something that more often than not, men will find as an attractive quality with women. Being that Vietnam is a developing country where the education system is slowly catching up to the rest of the world, women who spend a lot of time in school and who pursue careers oftentimes will place a bigger emphasis on their career over dating. Being that these values are ingrained in most Western culture, it's something that men innately understand if they have been brought up in a Western country. It is not unusual to have to cancel on dinner plans or flake out on an arrangement with someone because you have another responsibility that is work related. And Vietnamese women who are pursuing careers like that appreciate those values. Now, the fifth one is something that I'm hesitant to bring up, but that is the subject of domestic abuse. In Western countries, hitting a woman is something that is significantly frowned upon. It's something that is completely socially unacceptable. And in Southeast Asian culture and in Vietnam, it is something that's pretty common. And violence towards women or domestic battery is definitely still an issue here. And for the Vietnamese women that have experienced domestic abuse or domestic violence, they oftentimes will look towards Western men because it is not something that we find socially acceptable. Obviously, this is a gross generalization, but this is feedback that I've been given. The last and final reason that Vietnamese women will often date a Western guy is the same reason why Western men will oftentimes find Vietnamese women attractive. It's a new variety. It's something that we haven't seen before. It's exotic, and it is different among a sea of people that all have similar features. Having blonde hair and blue eyes in Vietnam makes me stick out like a sore thumb, and likewise, if a Vietnamese girl was in America among Western-looking women, I would notice her out of the group the same way she notices me out of a group. Well, I hope I've opened up a can of worms. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, share. It's been Mitchell. I'm out.